tell you something funny. When Emily was chained up here and I walked back to my car this way, some pipeline workers were doing something or other, and I overheard this one woman say something like, "Oh, have you been back there? It's so beautiful." Which it is, of course, until you get to the pipeline.
And we started this project, let's see, I guess it was 2015, August of 2015, and it's an installation created by an artist named Aviva Romani, who is from New York, and she was asked by a group in Peekskill along the Algonquin incremental pipeline to paint a line of trees, or to come up with a social practice installation that would allow, well, maybe save the trees and save the pipeline route, save the forest and the pipeline route. And she came up with this idea that if you paint a blue sine wave on the side of trees using a non-toxic buttermilk paint, and then copyright them and paint them in the specific pattern that indicates whole notes and half notes, then she would create a symphony that also went along with what is known as a biogeographic sculpture. She was funded by the New York Foundation for the Arts and is continuing to work on this project. Heard about it through a listserv that we're a part of here, and thought that it would be a really awesome way to connect with other communities in the country that are suffering from the same fate with their forests and other landforms with these high-pressure pipelines. So beginning in August of 2015, I worked with community members to begin painting trees, and because at the time the pipeline route was continually changing, first it was going through that house where we park next to, and then it was going to come up over here, and then it's been moved over here. Rather than painting it directly on a pipeline route like Aviva was doing, I just decided that we'd just paint all along this road, because that way they had to go through it no matter what. And so we ended up by painting over the course of about a year, over 200 trees between the main road and just a little bit past where they ended up by going through. They literally moved it several times, and we kept moving the pipeline, the trees past it. I don't know that there was any connection or not. But the concept is that we would use the Visual Arts Rights Act to protect copyrighted artwork. Peter von Tiesenhausen, who is an artist in Canada, sculptor, had 800 acres that he copyrighted the top 6 inches of his soil, and that way everything that was on it, because a gas, actually an oil pipeline was going through his property. Every time that the pipeline company came to talk to him, he charged him $500 an hour. And after a while, they got sick of it and just moved the pipeline. So it was never tried in a court of law. We ended up by never being able to find a lawyer who was willing to risk litigating it. No precedent had been set using this concept, so they weren't interested in assuming the liability. To find out kind of what it might look like in court, in April of this year, Blade of Grass, which is a nonprofit organization that supports social practice art, did a mock trial at Cardozo Law School in New York City, and we went up to that. I was a member of the jury, and they had a real judge and real plaintiffs. One was one of the trees, a phoenix pole, which I cut down and we FedExed up to New York. It wasn't that big. And then they had lawyers who actually represented each side. The judge ruled for temporary injunction, and she said that she believed that both sides could find some middle ground. Anyway, I won't make comment on that, but I'm up here, so trying to protect trees, so you probably know where I stand on it. Anyway, so it was a great community project. We started this super early in the process. It was mainly a way, we were really hoping that we could litigate and actually save the trees, and they couldn't cut them down. We painted on Benton Mountain as well as also in Giles County. And there's over 11 sites around the country that have this project on it right now. We had Aviva come to Virginia Tech to Perspective Gallery and do an installation there. In 2016, she did some lectures. So once again, it was mainly a way of informing the community. That's how I kind of look at it in hindsight, since we weren't able to litigate. And actually pointing out where the destruction could be. You know, you read about things and you're like, yeah, right. You see the scientific information, but when you actually bring people up here and they see marked trees, it connects them in a visceral way. And the other thing we found was that the act of painting was very connecting. People were able to find a deep relationship to something that they had been fighting for in a different type of way, and it ended up by helping people renew their fight to move forward, because it's exhausting writing letters and doing this over the course of time. And over again, I heard people saying, "I feel so much better after I did this," and they couldn't exactly say why, but it's once again that act of doing, and in a way that's visual and connecting you to the greater whole. Anyway, so right now Aviva's in Saskatchewan painting a line of trees on an organic farm that's under threat from a big gas pipeline up there. That's a project she's been working on for a year. And she's also gotten more funding for creating there's 4 movements in this symphony, so she wants to create the last movement. So anyway, that's it.
Wow.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But technically, you're not allowed to stop and look when you're past that yellow sign before
Right.
you get back to the trees on the other side.
What about turning around and coming back? Are we allowed to do that?
You are allowed to turn around and come back, but not
it's
in
after,
the middle.
Yeah,
Oh, I got you.
after
So
you
when
get
we
it.
start walking,
Okay,
we have
it's
to
all
keep
right.
the
kill it?
motions.
No, I'm
No,
not.
no,
I'm
no.
just moving them.
It's like I've never heard
Well, let me
anything
ask you
like
this,
in
why
my
is that
life.
truck parked there if there was a sign at the beginning saying no?
Well, they're
It's their
workers.
security, it's their security.
So
and
he's
workers and-
allowed.
Yeah, so they've got a variance from the Forest Service to be able to use this as a shared access.
So that yellow sign we're not allowed to pass, or we're allowed to pass,
No,
but
we're
we're
not
not.
allowed-
we
but
can
you can't stop.
see the silt fence here. We can go along the edge and walk along here because this is private excuse me,
okay.
private property over here.
Okay.
And the landowner has given us permission to
Okay.
be on it.
Now you're not allowed to go past that yellow sign, or you're
You know
allowed
you
to go
are,
past
but
it,
you have
but
to
can't
go in
stop.
one direction and you can't stop.
Oh, you have to just like,
Keep going
Keep
across.
and we're not allowed to video, nothing, right?
No, I don't think there's any restriction about that.
So you could just video and walk.
But for everything that you want to see, we can go right along
Right.
the silt fence.
We
Were they
have to
bothering you last
constantly
night?
wonder if what we're talking about is being recorded
Oh,
or
it's true.
surveilled. So we can't even have open human dialogue about how we're feeling, our frustrations, our anger, without feeling like, okay, is what I'm saying legal or not legal? Is someone going to try to sue me because I just expressed my anger or vented my frustrations? And it's, to live under that too, as just citizen activists and landowners and community members is, to me, it's, one of the harshest violations is,
Right.
The assault on all of us is in
Basic rights.
our personal time is just,
Source
it's
of
such a hard.
privacy and security.
Yeah, you don't even.
So here we are on Brush Mountain, on the MVP route. You can see the pipes already. This is very steep gradient here. You can see the workmen down there for size. And here we're looking up the mountain. This whole thing is a big slope.
Water from flowing down really fast.
Oh.
It's part of their erosion control.
So one of the things they're, in theory, supposed to do is build those up, but then when they actually move equipment up and down, they undo them, and then in theory they're supposed to build them back up right away. So there's really no,
Yeah, it's away from the site.
there's really no sense to it. I mean, either you have water bars or you don't, but the frequency with which they're expected
This
to
is
the
one of-
waterway, they don't necessarily do.
Well, and so like this is one of their diversions that's documented. That they,
Or not.
but every time they have them all the way down here now. But every time they drive trucks up and down, they have to flatten. See
so
them all
this is
down
the
there, all
bumps,
those
I
big
see.
bumps.
Yep.
They have to flatten them so that they can actually get the trucks over them. Because I mean, they have semis coming up here with this pipe. I mean, they drove semi trucks with these pipes on them up here. And ugh. this is such a nightmare. I mean, this is the thing that you knew was going to happen, but I'm like seeing this, it's like, oh my God. And then it's this right angle turn, right there. I mean, that's a freaking disaster. It's one of many. But
I think that they claim that to come in and take the pipes back out and put them on the yard will cause erosion, and then the pipes it would not be environmentally friendly to put them back out here. But if you research the length of time that the pipes have already been on the yard, as to the amount of time that they would be exposed to the elements laying in water along these trenched areas of the pipeline, it's definitely, I believe, and I think science would believe the same, is that these pipes need to come up out of the water. They need to be placed in a storage yard. They need to be handled as storage and protected that way before they bring them back and put them out here.
So how long were they sitting out exposed to the elements? Does anybody know?
Months.
I'd say it's been a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm thinking way over a year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean,
If they know that the pipes would get corroded in that period of time, why wouldn't they protect it or cover it or put it in some place that it would kind of, not let it?
Money's. It all falls back to money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Jamie's right. Money, and they probably thought they were going to be able to push it through a lot faster than they were
Okay.
able.
So they
Yes.
didn't think it would be sitting
Yeah.
out for as long.
Right.
Wow, look at this.
That's what's going to go down into our caves and our karsts and destroy our rivers, creeks, streams, reroute creeks, and nobody's looking at the big picture on this mountain.
You can see the rusting
Yeah.
right on there.
And I don't know. There's so many arguments. My sense is I don't think that the citizens of these communities should have to have the pipes rust and corrode in the soil. They claim that to get them in the ground and cover them is going to protect them, but they're not calculating the fact of the water tables here and the amount of groundwater that's sitting in some of the spots. Maybe some of the higher spots will drain out, but in these lower valley portions, those pipes are literally going to be under the ground in water.
Yeah.
And
some of them already are.
and some
They're
of
sitting
many
in
of
water
them
now.
already are,
Yeah.
So I think that that's a huge concern. So when
Yeah.
they ask, well, we need to get them in the ground and get them covered up to protect the environment, to stabilize, it's really,
Oxymoron.
that's not what they're doing at all.
Yeah, the safest thing would be is just stop bringing the pipe and putting them in the ground.
Yeah.
That's the safest, cleanest.
Okay.
I'm Jason Shelton. I'm a local business owner and citizen and nonprofit activist for a number of different things. It's been everything from the animal shelter to the environment, so it doesn't really matter. It's just about building community. And I think this is Mountain Valley Watch has turned into a thing that it is the definition of what community is. And it's the landowners taking ownership of their land, walking their land, getting the pictures of the potential violations that they see, submitting them to us. We turn around with reports, do analysis, and actually submit it to DEQ, and that helps them in responding for their inspectors. They're supposed to do a lot of self-reporting. We've seen self-reporting, certainly not on everything, but we've seen them show up. So it's not anything more in our minds than when I saw this, I wasn't directly impacted, but my community was. So I wanted to contribute as a professional in the way that I could, which is building maps, flying drones, getting out and helping landowners, and doing it at a rate that we can just agree that as a community we need to bear the cost of this burden and do it. So
how many volunteers do you have?
we have probably 30 solid landowners who are constantly taking pictures and doing this. Franklin County was really the one that kicked it off, probably because of the level of activity that they had there. And it was when you would go out and we would go out and look in the field and fly the drone, you would see, right, we would be out there right after a rainstorm, and right after the rainstorm you'd see the first car drive by and stop and take pictures. And then 15 minutes later you'd see another car drive by and stop and take pictures. And 15 minutes, and it was like the call to arms came out when the rain came, and everybody just knew where they were supposed to go. And but it's what we've needed to document it, because what the landowners have said the entire time is they don't understand what the overall damage is going to be, and the damage is going to last a lot longer than what they claim reclamation is. So they're going to claim reclamation as the pipe is buried, they put in their permanent erosion sediment control measures with the diversion bars, and that's going to be enough. And we're saying that no, you're going to have problems on these slopes for years to come beyond this. And so the safest thing to do is get the pipe out and figure out a different alternative for what you've done to this corridor.
Like
So that's where we are.
Like what?
Get it out. Bring it back to full reclamation. Reclaim the land. Maybe there's an opportunity here, since we have a large corridor, maybe we do some analysis and get slope aspects and start putting in bids for replacement of solar energy to actually replace the pathways of these grids, you know? So it's just a
Or wind.
It's a way to, or wind.
Wind?
Throw the
On the
windmills
mountain,
on
right?
top of the, you know,
Right.
then you're not digging a trench and causing more open surface area for the soil to erode. You're just putting in pillars and foundations and doing that, and that is less damaging.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a perception that, well, once the pipelines are in, then the story's over. And you're saying that
It will never end.
yeah.
Peterstown, West Virginia, Peters Mountain is still having problems from a 12-inch line that was put in 4 years ago for the Celanese plant.
Yeah.
4 years have gone by for a 12-inch line.
Yeah, trash your water
42-inch
supply.
line is going to
12-inch line.
a 12-inch line. A 42-inch line is going to cause. I mean, you had the town of Rich Creek have to take the brunt of that cost burden on their town. Nobody else paid for that. Celanese didn't pay for it. It wasn't the pipeline company. Yeah. Municipal Water Authority took the brunt, which is the same thing that's going to happen to Spring Hollow Reservoir in Roanoke County.
And all of our private
You have
wells.
in just the Spring Hollow Reservoir drainage basin, when you just look at the right of way, they're going to have 350 acres or so of uncovered soil just in the right of way.
Right.
350 acres. That's just to Spring Hollow.
And it's a very small watershed.
Yeah, you're not talking a big watershed at all. You're just talking from the top of Brush Mountain to the top of Poor Mountain.
Right. And Spring Hollow Reservoir is all the water for
Roanoke City.
Roanoke County, and then I guess Salem also.
So now you have the population of Roanoke bearing the brunt of what MVP calculates at a conservative estimate is $36 million over the next 10 years.
10 years.
Where the
And
reality of
apparently
that,
that's
and
just the sediment load from the Jefferson National Forest. That doesn't even include from between the Jefferson National Forest to
to
Spring
Poor
Hollow.
Mountain. It's just
That's an important.
it's
shift
just
on the
Jefferson
total
National
board,
Forest that they calculated the sediment load from.
which is here.
Sediment and water do not know property boundaries.
Right, right. This is all assuming the land and the water stands at attention and does
Right
exactly
there.
what the company says they're going to do. And then end of story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another big issue that's affected landowners with wells is that, or springs where they get their water source, is they've had to out of pocket pay for water quality sampling before construction, then they have to do it again after construction to see what impacts there's been from the construction.
If you can afford it.
If you can afford
if you
it.
can
Which I-
afford
I
it.
Because a
mean,
legally
most of us could-
defensible
Cut-
water test is going to be about $2,000.
2,000,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Or
And
more.
so when the majority of Americans can't bear the brunt of a $500 emergency,
Yeah.
where do you think $2,000 to test your water is going to
Yeah.
come from? It's not. You're going to deal with it when you get the disease that's been transmitted to you from drinking that.